Well, welcome everybody. My name is Dr. Robert Brooks. I am the director of the Jazz Studies program. I also teach clarinet and saxophone here at Friends University. Um, and this is my great colleague, Mr. Shawn Knopp. If you want to introduce yourself, feel free.
Hello, everybody in Facebook world. Shawn Knopp here, director of bands and music ed program director. Thanks for joining us out there. We're going to be monitoring the comments in the live video here. So if you have some questions or want to do a shout out, I'll be watching for that. Dr. Brooks will too, and we'll address any questions you might have. So feel free to drop some love in there for us.
So we're going to be talking about ways that you can, students that are in high school and our own university students can make themselves even more successful in all the other instruction that they receive here at Friends University with making sure that they're representing themselves online well. I know, obviously, with COVID and everything that's going on, Zoom sessions and remote lessons and master classes. I know the jazz department has been doing weekly Zoom sessions with guest artists from across the country. We've had Dr. Sean Purcell. We've had Dr. Darden Purcell. Both came in to work with our students virtually. Um, um, Miguel Zanon, Chad Levowitz Brown, Adam Larson, Dr. Reginald Chapman, Dr. Chris Bate, tons of great guests, and it's absolutely has been a perk that our students get to, and even and myself too, get to work with other people. So it is becoming an increasingly more and more important skill for us to be able to kind of move forward with understanding how to record yourself well, to know what technology to look for, and kind of go from there. So we wanted to first start off with using Zoom. We're linked live to Facebook from Zoom, and I'm in my home, and Mr. Knopp is on campus in his office, and we wanted to start by working through a process in real time on how to make your feed look better. If you look at Mr. Knopp, his feed is much better looking than mine is. Mine is purposefully quite bad. And it's something that I have seen a lot in a lot of the Zoom sessions that I've done. I was impressed. I did with one of our alumni, Ryan Royal at Trinity Academy, did a session with him and his band program on Monday. And I was really impressed by a lot of things. I mean, there's a lot of great musicians there. I know we've had a few recent graduates who've come from Trinity, and we always love those students. And I was really impressed because a lot of their students have cameras on, which is great, which is absolutely better than not having a camera on. But also, once that camera is on, it's important to make sure you're kind of doing that stuff right. So, do you want to help me, Mr. Knapp, do you want to help me work through what I need to do and what's wrong with my camera angle?
I would love to. My problem here is that I can't see your face. I can't see the beauty that God gave you there on the front side of your head. Uh, you
There's
got
a
such
lot
a
of
big,
it too.
yeah, exactly. You got such a bright light behind you. So, to compare and contrast what we have going on, you can't see it, but I've got a light pointing directly at me. It's not a ring light, but it's a light that's looking at my face. And I've got a dark background, even though the windows are light over here. So for Dr. Brooks, we really want to get the light facing your face and not facing the camera.
Yeah, so I can start by closing this, see if that makes a difference. And that's better.
Yeah,
But I,
definitely better. But our cameras are so smart that they're adjusting for the different light. They're trying to focus on what's present there. So you still got that really bright light above you.
yeah, so I should turn. Let's see how much better that is. Is that better lighting wise?
Yep, a little bit. And if you could bring your camera down, because it's still picking up some of that bright light at the very top of the ceiling there. Still trying to
Well,
focus on that.
yeah, absolutely. So I want to, well, and I have a light on my, so you were talking about that you have a front facing light. I have an actual ring light. And as some of my students who saw my streaming setup at the university when I was participating in the, what was that, last weekend for International Saxophone Day. I was participating in a group of workshops that was led by jazzlessonvideos.com, Chad LB. Um, and so I had my entire setup set up. So I do have an actual ring light on a
Awesome.
tripod set up. And the reason that these are great, and this is actually something that I stole from a lot of YouTubers, a lot of especially people on TikTok. It's really, really big in that community. I learned it too from my wonderful wife, Dr. Lara Brooks, who teaches at Washburn University. That's great for makeup. And if it's good enough for her, then it's good enough for me. So let me turn that one on first before we work on the camera angle.
There we go.
Yeah, and I can make this brighter, and that's what's great about ring lights is that, and the one that I have is off Amazon. I mean, I think it's like $30. It's
Yeah.
not, they're not expensive, and I can adjust not only the type of light. I don't know how well you can see a very warm light versus completely white, but
Yeah.
I can really dial in the exact kind of coloring that I want to get, and then I can also make it as dim as possible. That's a little too bright, probably. I usually
Yeah.
like it about there. One more up. There you go.
There we go.
So that's the next step better, right? And so
Yeah, that's much better.
you were talking about my camera angle. So
Well, the odd thing about it is, we can see the bottom of your chin really well, um, and up your nose, which is really great, which is, fine, but there could be better options depending on what you're trying to get across. But it's shooting up at your face, and then, like I said, also getting the top of that window that still has that light coming through.
yeah,
So anything you
absolutely.
can do to raise your camera up helps too.
Let's try this one. I'll even sit up straight for you.
There we go. Wow, you look great.
Yeah, exactly. And so I know actually I think Mr. Knopp, I think we have the same laptop stand. I think we have the exact same one. And so I have my laptop sitting on a stand that raises it, I don't know, 6 inches maybe or so off the ground, off the desk.
All right.
And that what that does is it lines up. Other things that I've used in the past, you can use a pile of books. You can use something that I used to do in grad school a lot because I didn't have one of these stands, is I would use a stack of board games because I had plenty of board games. So you get, and this will, get my nerd out. If you get all the different kinds of Catan, the base game, and then trade, and then Seafarers, and then Traders, and you stack those up, good. Yeah, that's a book. Oh my gosh! But if you stack all three of those up, it gets it about the same height.
That's
Yes,
my one.
perfect. And that goes such a long way to getting that height in. And I even kind of think personally, I think I could probably have this even slightly higher. Even
Yeah.
that would be better. But this is fine. And then that allows me to sit up in a more normal way, and it gets it a lot better. So you can kind of see, and especially once this video, I know we're going to post it on YouTube and then it'll be here on Facebook. You can go through and see where I started and how I got to where I am now and how much better it is, making sure you have that. And then the other thing that we can work on, obviously, is your clothing. What you're wearing is important, and making sure that you're looking, you're dressed for the video that you want to make, and that's kind of be something else that we can talk about. There's definitely a version of kind of the situation that you have to deal with. So sometimes if you're making something that is designed to be more casual, then that's okay. It's not about always being super dressed up. But you want to make sure that you're keeping that in mind, because that stuff definitely matters. And then the last thing that I'm thinking of, at least, is the background. So what do you think of my background?
Well, it's interesting, and I'm always looking at people, what's in the back of their rooms, and did you just happen to get into a closet, or I can see some guitars back there, some music things, and I try to be intentional about that as much as possible, because I've done a couple 2 or 3 high school band clinics. I got another one tomorrow with Trinity Academy and Mr. Royal. But
Yeah, great.
what are people going to spy in the background? Like, I really like my art back there that one of my students made, charcoal back there, and then some concert posters, and everybody loves to see my coffee pot. But, just something interesting that is more than just, a disheveled dorm room. Because whether you like it or not, people get impressions by all the stuff you don't intend for them to see or pick up on.
Yeah,
And so
exactly.
I'd love to see what's in the background.
Yeah, and so I think it's good to kind of look through that. So I have some of this stuff. I have an errant music stand. So that doesn't look great. I'd probably get rid of that. And before we started, I kind of did this instinctually. This was covered. This was covered in piles of stuff. So I already cleaned that up. And then yeah, and then I have some other things. And this what I have behind me um is a little bit unorganized, but it's not bad. It doesn't distract. Probably this stuff isn't great. I probably could clean that up. But overall, it's not something that, certainly not something that's lit. It's not something that is moving or creates motion, right? And it's also not something that's really close to me. I think that's always something that is important. If I have something where I'm pushed against a wall and there's a big poster of something, that's going to be distracting. And depending on, there's settings in Zoom where you can turn up the blur, or you can turn up like other like factors and things like that. I wanted to make sure it's something that stays in the background as much as possible. Um, so good things that you can have. I think the best thing is a blank wall.
Yeah.
It's probably the best thing, or having things that you intentionally place there. Sometimes, usually it's not art. Yeah, and then there's also the virtual backgrounds. That's exactly right. Yeah, and that's a great shot. You got Freddie. You're
Well,
soaring high. You're
yeah,
on Freddie's wings right now.
and for what you're doing, I mean, if that's, if I'm out there doing some recruiting and I, want to, really push hard on that, then I'm going to put a lot of our stuff back there. Or if you're, if you're in a meeting looking for a job, you don't want to go over the top with virtual backgrounds. You want to be professional, but just the extra touch, everything matters.
Yeah, and it's always gets into that same thing, the same kind of attention to detail that you're going to put into your playing for an audition video or for an interview. The same level of attention to detail needs to happen for something like this. I mean, if I know some of the virtual auditions that we've done, I'm not necessarily looking for those things. I'm not going to sit down and say, oh well, they have, I'm a, like another sports team or something that I don't like. I'm not going to judge them based on that necessarily, but if I'm taking time to notice what's in their background or notice how bad the video quality is, I'm not listening to their playing.
Yeah, it's a distraction.
Exactly. And that's how I like to view it for myself when I'm making something. I want to make it as easy as possible for whoever I'm talking with to focus on me. And I think, things that you can do for branding, I know you have that background. I'm always making sure that I'm wearing something with Friends University on it to make sure. So I'm wearing this on purpose when I talk with our with a lot of the high school visits that I've done this semester. I'm always making sure that I'm have that because I want to reinforce things. I want to make sure everything kind of has that element of being on purpose. So that's kind of the first step. So whenever, students and high school students and our college students and anyone else who's watching this, make sure that you're considering kind of how you're representing yourself with things like that. With having, it doesn't mean you necessarily have to buy a light and buy a tripod like I did. I could, go get a lamp and just set it in here. It doesn't have to be, it can be things that you already have. I think it's easier when you have the right tools. When I have a light that is designed, that has all these options, and I can change the brightness and I can change the angle. And then what's great about ring lights is that I'm able to use it with some of the other platforms. And that kind of might serve as a good segue for us to other recording technology and things that you can use that you'd have to purchase or maybe not, but you can use with like dedicated tools like that.
Yeah, definitely. And just tag on before we go on and talk about those. Like the front facing light I'm using here is an old one it's just a desk light that I got from Target so many years ago. And so many things can be repurposed. Like I always want to go out, I got to I'm a tech guy, right? I want to get all the latest and greatest technology, but sometimes that stuff, the extra book to prop up your camera or your laptop, the light, you can piecemeal this stuff together to make it work. Old camera tripods for different video cameras that you have. So, don't think of it as we're here to say, hey, you got to go buy all this great stuff. A lot of the things you already have will work to get a really good setup.
Yeah, exactly. Do you want to talk about the equipment that you're using on your behind the scenes stream?
Yeah, sure. I'm on my laptop right now for Zoom, but I'm gonna pick it up here and we'll go over here. I got a new technology. You really can't see it. I've got a bad background here, but it's this little camera over here. It's called a Mevo Start. And what I really like about it is all contained, all in one contained unit, to go out and live stream. So as long as you have a Wi-Fi connection, I'm actually doing behind the scenes right now to my personal Facebook page, just to see what we're doing here. It has great audio. You can hook different microphones up to it. But if you just want to go out there and live stream something, this is what I'll use Sunday for Ceremony of Lights with the Brass. It's just essentially a plug and play, which is nice. And those things are a little pricier, but it depends on how much you're going to be doing. If you're going to do it a lot of live streams and you just want something that is a no-brainer, that can go to Facebook, go to YouTube, or any of your other platforms, those things are great. I think I'll chime in about some of my other Zoom products, if that's okay.
Sure.
And I know we're going to get back to cameras and stuff, but going totally low key without any video. I love it's by Zoom H4n Pro, and I think this guy was only about $200 a few years ago. But this guy is just it's phenomenal because I use it for recording rehearsals. Oh, we're Twinkies. It's tremendous audio. And actually, I used this the other day, Dr. Brooks, when we recorded our percussion video for the 12 days. I connected this to my Mevo Start and used the phenomenal mics that are in here. And it was all through the mini plug. But investing in something like this, if you're a gigging musician, this is going to give you studio quality audio. Now, you're not getting the engineer who's going to go out there and mix it for you, but for a live recording, this stuff's really good. And it's got the XLR inputs on it.
Yeah.
And so I've kind of piecemealed a lot of my things together because I haven't found, one thing that I like. So hooking this up to the Mevo Start, or my old standard, which I really, really like, we use this in conducting classes, the older Zoom Q2, which is really great. And it's not a live streaming camera, but it goes to an SD card. And what I like about the Zoom products, I don't know if you agree with me or not on this, Dr. Brooks, but the audio has always been tremendous.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's just great audio.
Yeah, and I think for musicians, that's can be what's difficult about using your phone a lot of the time. Though I will say, new in the last maybe year, iPhones and other Android products have pretty good audio now. But that's kind of the problem, is that a lot of, and this is even true with Zoom interfacing or doing like FaceTime and things, or Skype, their priority, because it's mostly just people talking, their priority is a video. So they compress the audio. It's really bad. So Zoom brand products are great because their priority is they have kind of their priorities flipped. They're prioritizing the audio, and then it's also good video. But especially those, for our musicians who want to, create audition tapes for grad school, or just start to put together an online web presence and put together like a portfolio, and using social media as a platform to be able to, just kind of like, get your artwork out there. I think it's really kind of important to consider that side of stuff. But I use that same, my H4n, I've used it a ton. I know people, who use these for grad school recordings. I've used these for national competitions that I've entered and been a part of. I've used them to create a lot of different things. I know a lot of the musical theater stuff that I've done, where people will have these in the pit with us, and they can go back and listen or use it for like kind of like a clip reel. I know a lot of musicians on Broadway who do that, who record their own parts as a way to kind of put together like a musical resume. Here's some clips of me doing this stuff. And sometimes it's audio. More and more, it's turning into where you need to have both video and audio, but not necessarily always. So that's a really, really great thing to have. And something else that I will say that I really like about the H4n too, and is that it's battery powered. I actually don't have any batteries in mine. But it's nice that you can have it be both. It has a battery backup, and then it also has a plug-in for power. And what's good about that, and I recently ran into this, is because if you have a rechargeable battery, you have to sit there and wait for it to recharge. So one of the other Zoom products that I have, so you have the Q2.
Yep.
Right. So I have a Q4.
Yeah.
which is the next level up. And so the Q4 has the same really high quality. Oh, what is that one? That's the 8.
This is the Q8.
Woo! So this one has the same super high quality microphone, a much better quality camera than the Q2. Has a detachable screen, which is really, really nice. Comes off. It's both tripod mount and an action mount, which I really, really like because I have some GoPro. I have a GoPro and some accessories for that, so it's interchangeable. What I don't like about this is that it's only rechargeable batteries. So if I don't use it for 6 months and the battery's dead and then I need it right away, then I have to it's just like another thing to kind of deal with. So tell us about the Q8 because I want to know about that because I might upgrade if you have.
Does your Q4 have the fisheye?
It does. It's 130-degree wide lens.
Yeah.
And then it has a digital zoom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And see, when I bought this, I had different ideas about what I thought it was going to do, and I actually was disappointed because of the digital zoom and the wide angle because you can't get too close into it.
Yeah.
And what you want to focus on. But what I found out that I like about it, I will set this on a stand on a small tripod down in front of me to conduct a concert. And it's just focused on me, and I can have it really close, and it still has a wide angle shot of what's behind me and gets everything. I've also recorded student auditions with this. Drummers, percussionists especially like this because they can put it right down in the kit and get a really good view or right up top.
Yeah, I have a little tripod like this one.
Yeah.
That's it.
The other thing I like about these is the Q4, the Q4N or H4N Pro is the same way, but it has, the XLR inputs and it has, all the different audio things that you can change and really customize.
Yeah.
This one gets a little fancy where you can change out you can get different microphone pods to put up here, which I didn't, but it's like if I have this, which has the wide angle, and then I've got, this, the Q2, which does some more close stuff. And then I've got my Mevo and, a decent, just dedicated audio. It's like I have all the tools that I need to get everything that I could possibly want at a quality level that I'd be willing to put out there and have my name tagged to it.
Mm-hmm. So did you buy all that stuff at the same time?
No, some of this stuff I bought with a grant, like this H4N Pro. I wrote a grant when I was a high school teacher, and I got that at $500. And then I also did the same thing with a camera. And then I actually purchased the Q2, but it just took time. I got the Q2 right away because it did everything that I wanted. I wanted to record student auditions, really great audio, and record myself conducting for feedback and submitting audition things. But because this was cheap, this was only like $150. And I know they're selling these things used on eBay now, so that's always a good place to start. But
yeah, and I think the reason that I asked that is because we both own a lot of different equipment, and it's not stuff that we all did together. It's not something that I need to go out and buy and spend $2,000 on everything. It's getting tools together, and it's good to start with something that you need. I mean, the Q8 I kind of think is really that, really kind of that all-in-one. I mean, you really have like a portable video studio. It's good. It's really good quality video. You can do a lot. You can do some different angles, and then you could set up a multi-track recording with the built-in microphones and then 2 XLRs. I mean, that's a really, really great option, but it's scalable. You can kind of create whatever you need to create that way. So I think that's kind of a good overview and kind of talking about things that you can do in terms of like all-in-one devices and things that you can look at. And then again, not to discount how important using your phone is, because they're the quality on those are great. It's just that the audio quality isn't as good unless you have one of the new iPhones. Realistically, those
I might tag in. Our friend Ryan over at Trinity, Ryan Royal, shout out to him. He's watching. Put a comment in there. Said he's had a lot of success using his Shure MV88 coupled with his iPhone 11.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So finding that adapter that will connect a decent mic to your iPhone is another option too. Thanks, Ryan, for that. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and that's another way that you can use. I've done some live stream stuff. I know Solstice performed with University Friends Church at one of their talent showcases earlier this semester. We went live for that, and a couple of things I did on my phone. And the biggest thing that I noticed with that is how quickly it killed my battery. And it's kind of nice sometimes to have a dedicated item that I don't have to, I show up to the gig and I go, oh no, I'm only at 30%. And so it's good to and kind of invest in the same thing that you would invest in, a lot of the other areas of your musicianship. I know my saxophone and clarinet students, it's an investment to buy good reeds, and it's an investment to have a good mouthpiece and a good instrument. And it's just kind of the next step as you are moving up a level, right? If you're going from high school to college, it's good to be thinking about, how can I invest and make myself be even better. And then the same thing when I make that jump from being an undergraduate student to whatever's next for you. If it's going out and getting a band director or a choir director job, if it's going off to grad school or doing something else, it's important to be able to know kind of where you can get started, and then maybe kind of have some options to kind of go from there. I mean, my wife and I bought that handy recorder as a part of getting ready for grad school. It was something, we went out and looked at the Q8 and decided it was a bit too pricey for us at the time, but kind of splurged a little bit on the Q4, and it helped us to make sure that all the schools that we applied to around the country could hear what we really sounded like, and that's very important. So.
Well, to your point about, putting yourself out there and creating that product, that image, we're working with our music ed majors here. They all have to, starting in lit for the school band and orchestra this year, create a Google site. And they don't have to yet, but I'm encouraging them to, pick out a URL, their first and last name, something where they can put their content. Right now they're putting, their unit studies, their unit plans to show prospective administrators that, hey, I can assemble a lesson that has outcomes and assessments. Then I said, hey, the next step, when you get to your senior recital, you're going to put clips of your, 2-minute clips of this piece or this piece, so they can see that you're this consummate musician, this consummate music educator, and that you're the whole package. Because that's what I would do. If I'm hiring somebody, I'm going to Google them first, what's out there. And if you can control what people see as much as possible, what's the first thing that comes up? Boom, that's what they're going to see. And that's that first image, first impression.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think you really can't, understate the value of making a good first impression and doing those things. And then especially as this becomes more and more our norm, as
Yep.
As classes and auditions, I have students from friends that are working on going to grad school, and a lot of them aren't doing in-person auditions. It's only this stuff that is going to be this digital representation of who you are. It's important to do that. So I think something else that you can do in addition to, and kind of moving on with these different options with your equipment, is making sure in the same way that you're trying to use your equipment to the best ability. Part of the reason why I talked about that ring light, because my Q4 has the that tripod mount. I can put that right in the center of this, and that way it helps me to get even more even lighting and things like that. So I wanted to go over a couple, and you can always add to this, of course, a couple tips for you for how to record an audition video, or really kind of anything better. And there's a few of these that we can kind of go over. The number one thing is to think about how you are positioning the camera, both for audio and for the video. So we want to make sure, and it can be little things, we want to make sure the camera is level. That's something that gets overlooked. And you don't notice it, even if it's like a little bit, right? Especially when you can kind of see it in the ceiling. You might not notice it otherwise, but you kind of see it on that ceiling line. That makes a difference, that attention to detail, making sure that you are, what you want to be in frame is in frame, good or bad. that you can see my entire face. And then when we started, I had my face kind of off to the side and you couldn't see it that well. And so it's important to do that for, if you're going to be singing and a part of your song is going to be acting based, you want to make sure you have room in the frame to emote. I can't go that far with where I am. And so I got to make sure that I have that framing. If I'm going to be moving around, I want to make sure that I'm going to be able to get a good take without somebody watching, that I'm not going to leave the frame, and kind of work on that. And then the last thing that I think is important, at least from my point of view, with camera positioning, if you're using a phone or you're using some of the dedicated equipment that we talked about, is making sure that you are putting your camera height wise and distance wise where your audience would be if they were in the room.
Good
That
point.
makes a really, really big difference in how the audio is going to be perceived. So, and I do that all the time. I make sure that I have my tripod basically as high as it gets, which is a little bit above my like head level. Like it comes up at there. And then I put it far enough away, for framing, but also to be like, well, if I was in an audition, how far away would they be? They're not going to be sitting, on the ground right in front of me. They're going to be maybe back in these steps. And that helps to get the audio to be as similar as it can be with the tools that you have. Um, the, you know, how do I want to say that? To be as similar as can be as if they were there, as if it was a live performance, and to help you make sure that what the product that you're creating is what you want to create.
Making it authentic.
Yeah, absolutely. Mhm. So those are kind of the three things that I always look at when I'm setting up a room. Yeah.
Yeah, and that authentic part, it goes all the way back to the height of the camera and the eye contact that you're making. In this digital age, this is what's hard. Like these band clinics that I do, when students don't have on their camera who are you talking to. So I'm staring at the green dot that's on my MacBook camera right now that says my camera's on. But that's making that personal connection with you, as opposed to just staring off into space. And I want to get my point across, or I'm trying to perform for you, but I'm not having that same kind of connection. Your audience has to connect with you.
Yeah.
And that, figuring out how to, be comfortable with doing these recordings and these videos, and where you need to look, so that, like if I'm looking down, I'm looking towards the bottom of the screen, it looks like I might be a little disconnected. Or you've seen me look over to check the Facebook comments over here. It's just staying connected and staying focused, when the behind the scenes thing, there's so much going on, right? We're so distracted. But
Yeah.
getting our mental state, where, hey, this is an audition, I'm in a room with people that I've got to concentrate on, and that's where my focus is at.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think all those things are good things that you want to be aware of, because I always compare it to my playing. I want to make sure that I'm not leaving any stone unturned with my preparations for an audition or a performance or whatever it might be. And a part of broadcasting yourself at a larger audience, that's a huge part of that. So well, I think we've gotten through a lot of the gear and things like that. We had a question in the comments that I don't know the answer to, and I don't think it's true, but I don't know if you know. Is it the same Zoom company? Is that right? I don't think
I'm
so.
not sure. I don't think it is, because
They have a
this
different
Zoom
logo.
company, the logo is just there. The logo is just slightly different.
Yeah.
I need to do some research. Nelson, that's a good question.
I just didn't know if you knew, because it never even came across. I never even like connected those two dots. So
I think we
um,
might be connected.
So, and then the other thing that you can do to kind of go the like what I would at least consider to be the final step, and or maybe just like a different idea, is to beef up your audio in a different way. Is if you're using a laptop and you've already invested in having a quality laptop, um, is to get audio interface, and that can be really, really helpful. And it's maybe not even necessarily the right jumping point, because that requires you to also buy microphones and other things, and there's other options that I know you want to talk about, Mr. Knott, but I want to kind of talk about this. So I have the one that I use, and I have a few different ones of these, but the ones that I have right here, and I got to unplug everything so I can pick it up, is a Focusrite Scarlett. These are great. Super bare bones. It's one XLR. It's one um, like instrument cable. It has variable gain. It has direct monitoring, which is really great. And it's certainly become more and more normal over, pandemic times to do remote recordings. And I've been, gotten calls and done things where people want to put together a video, and they want me to play on like a studio track, and I need to have the ability to say yes to that paying gig. That's always something that's important. So I bought this. I think this was like $100 or $150 or something around there, because I got a call to do a recording that paid that much. So I couldn't do it at the time, and so they paid for me to get up and running. And then now everything, all the other gigs that I use it for past that are profit, which is great. And so that's another really, really great option, especially if you already have, like I said, if you already have a MacBook that is newer that can handle processing that. GarageBand is a great, it's free software that it does a lot of stuff. It's obviously not the top of the line things, but if you already invested in a laptop, this is a great kind of additional accessory that you can use. And then a lot of times it is easier to get microphones and things. I know I have a Shure Beta 98 clip-on mic that I use for my saxophone. I also have, and I kind of moved this for the presentation, but I have a vocal mic that I talk into if I'm doing a playing and talking demonstration. And so I can have these really high quality microphones that pass directly into the computer uncompressed, that represent, I'm able to talk, and I'm able to, adjust my saxophone separately. I think that can go a long way. So that's a Focusrite Scarlett. I think this is just it's 2 inputs. I forget exactly what the product name is, but they have a wide variety of products. I mean, you can get interfaces that are like up to like 4 or more. I think Scarlett goes up to 4, but there are other interfaces that go even more inputs than that at a time.
Well, one of the companies, Dr. Brooks, that I rely on a lot where I go shopping, Sweetwater, sweetwater.com. And they just, a lot of people are going there. They carry a wide variety of resources. I have an M audio interface. It just depends. They're all at different levels. At that entry point, depending, whether you're 50 or 150, you can get just about any by different companies. But the Scarlett one you recommend is a great company. M audio is good. I want to throw some things in there about USB mics. If you don't want to go the route of, getting an interface and you just need something that you can get in right away, there's lots of Snowball mics out there. One is called a Bumblebee. I mean, it's yellow and black, looks like that. There's the Blue Yeti Nano. There's a ton out there at a really reasonable price. And some of the long companies, longevity companies like Shure that have been in the business for a long time have adapted, and you can get a USB Shure mic, which is similar to what Ryan Royal was talking about. And you can just get really good audio quality, because that's really number one, like we said earlier, is finding a way to get really good audio quality. The video generally will be okay, but the audio always seems to take a sacrifice, because whether we're singing or whether we're playing, we're always overpowering these microphones, especially what's in our computer. The internal mic, it's just not meant to handle the frequencies of a saxophone or a soprano. Heaven forbid, Mrs. Dr. Brooks can't handle those really loud.
Yeah. So I think those things are really important. So, well, I'm just going to keep an eye on the timing. That's a lot of the stuff that I wanted to talk about. Are you seeing any questions in the comment section that we can address? Anybody have anything? Or if you're coming up with a question now, feel free to drop a comment. I'm going to try to open it up.
Our friend Mr. Royal put some other resources in for audio interfaces in the comments, which is good. Dr. Moore has some stuff in there. A lot of good stuff coming through. This is going to be a good resource for people to refer back to on this live video and look at the comments. And it really is the Wild West out there on the products that you can get. I mean, buying something that is a fraction of the cost will probably get you by in the short term if you're not doing a lot of it. But as we mentioned earlier, you start adding to your inventory. When I bought my first saxophone, that's all I could afford. And then you start picking up other instruments, and it's the same thing here, getting the equipment that you need to do what you need to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm seeing a question from Dr. Griffin, our fine arts chair here at Friends University. She said, what about making the recording itself? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Expand. What do you mean?
Well, so she asked, what about making the recording itself? I just saw that in the thing. So, yeah, I would like to get some some more clarity on that question, Joan, if you're still on. Ryan just posted, when using a desktop or laptop to record, what DAW software do you recommend? I think it follows that same um, kind of that sliding scale of how much money do you want to spend.
Yeah.
Obviously, kind of the industry standard is Logic Pro, at least in my, or Pro Tools, I guess would be it. Logic Pro, Logic Pro X being another one. Um, is they're they're comparable, but in my experience, most professional studios are using Pro Tools. Um, but honestly, I mean, you can get a lot of stuff done with GarageBand if you have a Mac, and if not, there are other quality audio interfaces you can use. I mean, even just something as simple as a program like Audacity
Yeah.
work, right? They're not, certainly you're going to be limited on certain things, but it also depends on how much you want to invest. If I'm going to open up a recording studio, I can't run GarageBand. I have to invest in having that professional equipment. In the same version, if I want to, play at the professional level as a saxophonist, I got to make sure I have the tools and the equipment to kind of support that. But I do a lot of the production stuff that I use is through GarageBand and through like using iMovie. Those things have the tools that I use enough. I don't necessarily need to um, uh, do all of the extra things because and this is partly just my role because I'm a performer. I'm usually recording myself with a background track and then sending it off to someone else for them to finish and compile. I'm usually not the person doing the producing. So for those things, GarageBand is more than enough. But if you're interested in creating your own content, if you're interested in releasing songs and, getting platforms, getting your music released on whether it be a label or self-release through like Spotify or other platforms, then it might be better to look into some of those, paid software DAWs. I don't know if you have any insight on that.
No, Audacity is the one that I've used. I remember when I got my M Audio interface, it came with a free DAW program. Really, I think if you haven't been using anything, dive into Audacity. I think Logic even offers a free version on the download. Just experiment with it because if you go with Logic Pro and you invest that money in right away, it is a steep learning curve to use that program. So just starting out, somewhere to beginning level, record yourself, go in there and see what all the different options, see what they do before you dive into and make the investment into a bigger program.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you seeing any other questions?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I guess. Oh, Alyssa says, do you advise recording outside? I feel like the lighting's pretty good, but the sound can be spotty. It really, you're dependent upon the weather. These units here, I don't have a windscreen for this. I mean, it's at home, but they make windscreens for microphones. But even the best windscreens, when you've got enough going on, it's just going to be not good at all. Plus, you really can't control the train that passes by Friends, which seems like 3 times a day. Your best just to get into a bigger space where you can control some of that ambient noise. Or unless you've got really fine directional mics and it's in a space where there's not a lot of outside traffic, then you can make that work. But yeah, it does become challenging.
Yeah, in my experience, I haven't done a lot of outside recording unless it's a large ensemble or I need to do that. You're talking about windscreens. I always think this is the greatest thing. This is the actual windscreen that
It's a troll.
comes with your Zoom, and it works really well. I will say that it works really well for wind. I just always love that. I always think it looks hilarious. So
The hairy monster.
yeah. So it's yeah, I wouldn't recommend that just because it's hard to control. I think that would be the biggest thing. I see Nelson said that Audacity doesn't edit video. It doesn't. We were talking about, at least I was focusing on DAW software, which is audio workstation. So for doing video, I mean, I only have experience doing iMovie, and part of that is just because usually the things that I'm focused on creating are audio first.
Yep.
And so that's a part of that idea. But and I don't yeah, and a lot of times when you're submitting things for auditions or for competitions or things like that, they require them to be not edited. They require them to be one take, to be raw audio. And so I just haven't really don't have a lot of experience with that stuff, so I'm not really sure.
Dr. Griffin clarified her question. What other additional items can we give to the folks out there to put themselves in the best light? Repertoire choice, things to do before recording, nerves. I think part of that is getting familiar and comfortable using the technology that you're going to be using. Use it multiple times. Use it when you're in the practice room. Take different takes so you know the ins and outs. I remember when COVID first hit, I was using this as an external mic with my laptop so I could get better audio, except it defaults to a higher frequency rate. So I sounded like a chipmunk and I didn't even know
Really?
it.
Huh.
Yeah. So I had to adjust that. Um, so just get comfortable with that so you're not having to worry about that, recording multiple times. Repertoire choice really depends on, what you're recording for. Um, if you're trying to build content to get out there, maybe, choosing concertos that are 10 to 15 minutes are not quite as good. If you can choose shorter clips, because we think about our attention span. I mean, we're here at 48 minutes now into this session, and some of you may have already checked out or gone to get your second cup of coffee, but we live in this microwave society. So if you can keep your clips to between 2 and 5 minutes, just stuff that people will engage on, because we're a click society too. Okay, great. I listened to 30 seconds of Dr. Brooks. Let's move on to the next thing. Oh, Charlie Parker's next. Great. Okay, we just keep moving. And so you get more content out there. I don't know what else you have to add.
Well, yeah, and I think it depends on the platform and then the purpose of the video. So if I'm going to make a lot of video platforms are limited. I know if you're putting out content on Instagram and you want it to show up in the feed, that's a minute max. I think TikTok is the same. And so I have to make sure that my videos are concise and to the point, and still showcases me in a good way as much as possible. And then YouTube, I kind of see that as being a lot more long form. And I think kind of in the ecosystem of all the different media outlets that we have, YouTube has kind of taken that up, because there used to be a lot shorter videos on YouTube. It's kind of interesting to see how that's changed. But now you get way longer entire songs. And we have that, Friends University Fine Arts page has a YouTube, so make sure you go and get subscribed to that. It's important to see all of our stuff. I've been adding a lot of content from our jazz band recording day that we did on October the 10th this year. And so I think I've put up almost 30 videos and they're all one song each, because I don't need you to jump in and listen to this entire 1 hour concert. I want you to come and listen to this one song. Here's the faculty playing Softly as the Morning Sunrise. Here's an original composition by our guitarist in Solstice Plays Webster. Here's, our new Latin jazz ensemble, Conjunto Latino, performing a song, and we have more things to come out and things like that. Same thing for the virtual recording that you did with the concert band, Shawn, is it's one song. It's not an entire concert. I think it's kind of important to kind of look through that. So
yeah, definitely.
And then a lot of times too, if you're doing an audition or things like that, they're going to be pre-decided what you're going to play. And sometimes the order of which those things happen is pre-decided. Sometimes the length on things. I know I've done a lot of auditions where they say very specifically, play the melody on All the Things You Are and take a one chorus solo.
Mm-hmm.
Or it has to be this many repetitions, or it has to be something else. So that's kind of an important thing to consider. And kind of going beyond there. And then I wanted to touch on something else that Dr. Griffin mentioned. It says things to do before recording to alleviate nerves. I think the ultimate thing you can do before you record to alleviate nerves is schedule double the amount of time you think it's going to take.
That's a good point.
Always. So I'm working on a project with Dr. Lillian Green, who does our orchestra program. She's the director of the strings here at Friends. And we're going to be unveiling a recording of myself playing a couple selections from the Charlie Parker with Bird, kind of group of pieces. Or sorry, Charlie Parker with Bird with strings is what I meant to say. I think that's and that's a lot of fun. You know, I'm really excited to put that together. And I think I said, I was like, oh, well, we're playing 2 songs and they're each 5 minutes long. So we need 10 minutes to record. I think we were there for an hour and a half. And because there's so much more setup, I'm going to always do more than one take. I'm gonna do that same thing with one of the videos that I had, our saxophone quartet, which is made up of 4 really great young saxophonists here at Friends. We had to record a 5 minute piece, and it took us an entire hour because I have to have the ability to repeat it, and having that time and not feeling pressured is helpful. And then it is a part of that. Don't wait till the last minute to record. That's another big thing. Make sure that you have time that you can do a recording session that's 2 hours long, and then get through it and go, that was terrible. And I need to schedule another one and do it next week. I don't want to have
Yeah.
to be like, I have to, and to put the pressure on yourself, I have to do this right now. So those are the things that always make me feel better, that I can be relaxed. And then the last thing, and a lot of the studio work that I've done for, both in professional studios or some of the albums that I've released, and then doing other recordings and things like that, is when you get a good take, walk away. Don't,
Exactly.
you know what I mean? If I get a take that's a 98%, I don't want to get into the void of more and more takes, and I get more tired and less focused, and then they never quite be as good. And then I have 20 takes of a song I have to listen to. It can really spiral, at least in my opinion. So
It's usually the first or second take.
yeah, usually the first or second take. Sometimes you get lucky on the third, but it's usually first or second. And so just kind of being that idea. So, and I know we're getting close on our time being up for concert hour, which is this originally as a part of. Is there any other questions that you're seeing in the comments? I'm not having much luck with refreshing the comments. I see the number has gone up, but I don't see any more comments. So,
Yeah, I've been on there, but it's not refreshing for me either.
okay.
Let me try again here.
Well, if anybody else has other questions, I mean, this video is going to stay up, and we're also going to be posting this on YouTube. Another great reason to check out and subscribe to our YouTube page for Friends University Fine Arts. You can find information about current students, about alumni, about what our ensembles are doing there. So I think that's a really great way to keep in touch. Like this page if you haven't already. Like my Friends University Jazz page. Mr. Knopp, you have Friends University bands, so that's
Yep.
a great outlet to be able to stay up to date. And there's a lot of great opportunities here at Friends for our current students to keep getting better, and then prospective students to join and be a part of, these small school environment and everything that we have to offer here at Friends, and get specialized instruction and get to know us. And we love getting to know new students. So. If you do get other questions, feel free to put them in the comment. We'll kind of monitor it for a little bit, and I can, respond. We'll respond when we're not live and kind of go from there. So, anything else you want to add?
Nope, I just the basic encouragement to go out there and give it a try. Use the technology you have, make some videos, ask someone else to look at it, what looks great, ask for feedback. That's how I've learned. Just go out there, experiment, fail, which stands for first attempt in learning, try again, and keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate taking the time, and it's good to talk about this stuff and be able to share. Each of our, it sounds like we've had a lot of the same experiences, which I think is good, because it kind of shows that that no matter what kind of track you go through. I mean, for me, being very performance oriented and going through school kind of all at once, and then your experience as a high school band director, as a returning student, and things like that, and then here now at the college level, I think it's important that a lot of these things just kind of end up being a lot of the same ideas, and we use a lot of the same tools. So I think that goes a long way. So
Definitely. Thanks for putting this on today, Dr. Brooks. Appreciate the invite.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And I want to say thank you to everybody who watched. We really appreciate taking the time. And we will be back with more content on the Friends Fine Arts page coming up as we get closer. We have Instrumental Music has 12 Days of Christmas video series that's coming out soon, as well as the continuation of our annual tradition at Friends, the Friends University Candlelight, featuring Dr. Rayvon Moore and the Singing Quakers. I got to say it right. The Singing Quakers
Careful.
Ensemble, yeah. So we'll see y'all soon back on Friends University digitally. So thanks for joining us today.
Have a good afternoon.